Since the horror genre is regularly filled with serial killers, mindless monsters, and idiots just begging to be killed off, it's often exhilarating when such deplorable characters get what's coming to them. However, it's not just gratifying to watch this lot get their comeuppance, but also how that comeuppance is revealed. So with all that said, I am Gareth, this is What Culture Horror, and here are the 10 most satisfying horror movie reveals. Number 10, it's not a dud, Blade 2. In Guillermo del Toro's Marvel sequel, Blade must face off against a horde of mutated vampires called Reapers. Too powerful to face alone, the Daywalker is forced to ally with his blood-sucking enemies to combat this new threat. And after most of the Reapers are extinguished, the vampires unsurprisingly capture Blade, telling him they always intended to betray him. Well, he should have seen that coming. But when Blade tries to blow up the vamps with a bomb, his assistant Scud, played by a pre-famed Norman Reedus, reveals he programmed the device not to detonate, since he was secretly allied with the Nosferatus this entire time. Rather than leaving it there though, the treacherous techie chastises his mentor for 90 seconds straight, bragging about how Blade's efforts were for nothing. However, as this triumphant monologue comes to a close, Blade points out he's actually known about Scud's true allegiance since day one, awkward, and alerts him to the fact that the explosive in his hand isn't actually a dud. Before Scud has a chance to react, Blade activates the detonator and reduces his now former sidekick to a bloody pile. Even though Scud was only revealed to be a traitor a few moments earlier, watching him being blown sky high was immensely gratifying. Now I've got a quick question for you. What is the greatest vampire movie ever in your opinion? Was it one of the Blades or something else? You let me know in the comment section down below. Number 9, a double whammy for Martin, Army of the Dead. In heist movies, there tends to be that one person who's just there to screw over their peers and mess up the entire operation. And the second Martin is introduced in Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, there is no doubt that he is up to no good at all. For Martin, he and his squad are tasked by an entrepreneur, Bly, to infiltrate his zombie-infested casino to retrieve his fortune. However, Martin acts so shifty throughout the mission, it's painfully obvious he has ulterior motives. And soon after decapitating a specific zombie known as the Queen, Martin traps his teammates in a basement, where he reveals Bly hired him to retrieve the zombie head in the hopes of creating an undead army. Because what could go wrong, eh? While Martin cockily strolls away with the bagged head though, happy he's completed his goal, upon checking the bag he realizes that his teammates were onto him, and had swapped the head with a bill counter. But just when it looks like things cannot get any worse for Martin, a zombie tiger appears and makes its intentions unmistakably clear. Before Martin has a chance to flee, the undead jungle cat rips his head off. Army of the Dead has plenty of great shots, but nothing is as pleasing as watching Martin's face when he realizes he's about to be mauled to pieces. Number 8, Freddys Glove, Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday is universally touted as the weakest entry in the Friday the 13th franchise, which is why it's ironic how well it starts. This appalling sequel kicks off with Jason Voorhees being blown to Kingdom Come before the opening credits have had a chance to finish. Despite this killer prologue though, things go downhill when the film turns into a body-hopping flick, with Jason possessing people in the form of a parasitic slug. By the time the physical form of Jason returns in the climax, it's not as thrilling as it should be since the unstoppable Revenant has spent the last hour as a freaking snail. However, the final moments of Jason Goes to Hell do come close to redeeming the picture. After Jason is banished to hell, the closing shot focuses on his hockey mask lying in the dirt. Suddenly, Freddy Krueger's clawed glove pops out and drags the mask underneath, while the dream demon lets out a maniacal cackle. It may have only lasted a few seconds, but this piece of fan service was better executed than just about everything else in the film combined. Number 7, welcome to Act 3, Scream 2022. When it comes to the Scream saga, one key component of each movie is the mystery surrounding Ghostface's identity. Though the Wes Craven-created meta-slasher franchise has its fair share of creative kills and quotable dialogue, few things are as exciting as watching the ghoulish serial killers getting unmasked. And 2022 Scream is no exception. While the gang are busy formulating a plan on how to stop the latest Ghostface, Liv bursts in screaming, her hands drenched in blood. Amber then accuses Liv of being being Ghostface, which she adamantly denies. Then, after Liv repeatedly insists that she's not the killer, Amber just nonchalantly says, "I know," before blowing her friend's brains out. She then turns to the others, smugly saying, "Welcome to Act 3. What makes this reveal more shocking is how Amber behaved just so damn sincere and anxious seconds before letting the cat out of the bag. The identity of Ghostface this time around may not have been particularly blindsiding, but the way Amber revealed herself with such unapologetic gumption was one of the very best moments, not just in the film, but in the franchise as a whole. Number 6, Lestat lives. Interview with the Vampire. As hard as it is to believe, the film adaptation of Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire was drenched in skepticism before release. It lingered in development hell for years. The lead actor tried to walk out, and Rice herself had little faith in the adaptation. On top of that, Tom Cruise seemed miscast as the undead debonair Lestat de Lioncourt. Fortunately, Interview with the Vampire went on to be a monster success, with Cruise's performance deemed a particular highlight. Despite Lestat's manipulative and cunning demeanor, he is utterly captivating thanks to the Top Gun star's effortless charm. Lestat is so damn likable, it's actually heartbreaking when he's poisoned, incinerated, and abandoned, causing him to lose his passion and drive. At least that's how it appears. After the interview concludes, reporter Malloy drives away, certain this new story is gonna make his career. With little warning, Malloy is grabbed from behind by Lestat, who proudly says, "I'll assume I need no introduction," before feasting on him. It was a wonderful surprise, not just to see Lestat alive, but reclaiming his zest for life after decades of wallowing in self-pity. Good for him. Number 5, They're Starving. Dr. Sleep. Mike Flanagan's Shining sequel follows Dan Torrance, now grown up and using his powers to alleviate the less fortunate. Though he was traumatized by his time at the Overlook Hotel in his younger days, Dan trained himself to mentally lock away every nasty experience. However, Dan's life turns upside down when he discovers a cult of energy vampires who prey on Shiners, with Dan's friend Abra Stone targeted by the cult's leader Rose the Hat. Doing all he can to save Abra, Dan ultimately leads Rose to the Overlook Hotel, facing her in an epic showdown. But after Rose easily outpowers our hero, she begins sucking out his life force. Glimpsing into Dan's mind, Rose sees an image of coffins shaking vigorously. When she asks if something special is lurking inside, Dan informs her, "They're not special, they're starving." With that, Dan mentally opens the coffins, releasing the ghost that haunted his family many years ago. Just look at them all. In this moment, all the classic spirits from the Shining film appear. There's blood-splattered bald man, the twin girls, the crone in the bathtub, the creepy bartender, and basically everyone except the guy in the bear suit. Not only was this mega cameo a welcome but fitting surprise, it was thrilling to see these wicked spirits burrow into Rose's body, forcing her to endure a truly agonizing death. Number 4, Exposed to the World They Live. Critics at the time may have lambasted They Live for its heavy political message, but it quickly became a cult classic. Not only did John Carpenter's action horror sci-fi flick provide social commentary in an inventive way, it's impossible not to root for the heroic drifter Nada, portrayed by wrestling legend Rowdy Roddy Piper. While wearing a special pair of sunglasses, Nada notices all forms of media are layered with secret messages, conditioning the public to remain submissive to authority. By wearing the glasses, Nada also discovers that many people are aliens in disguise. As he realizes humanity is being mind-controlled and sets out to desperately wake the masses up. Then, during the climax, Piper's protagonist points his gun towards the transmitter that keeps the subliminal messages hidden. As he blasts at the satellite, the aliens shoot Nada, leaving him fatally wounded. At first, it seems like a bit of a downer ending, really, since our hero failed in his mission. However, the very next shot shows 2 aliens posing as news reporters being exposed on live television, proving the bubblegum-chewing badass disabled the transmitter before meeting his maker. It's a pity Nada didn't live long enough to see what he accomplished, sure, but at least he died happy knowing that he freed all of mankind. Number 3, Wrong Way, Day of the Dead. There are few characters in cinema more irredeemable, arrogant, and flat-out stupid as Captain Rhodes from Day of the Dead. Throughout George A. Romero's Dead sequel, this lunatic keeps endangering the other survivors even while they're trying to resolve the zombie threat. Time and time again, Rhodes contradicts his team, threatens to abandon everyone, and holds his own men at gunpoint. What an a-hole! And when he starts taking away the group's weapons and sending them on suicide missions, it looks like the captain is going out of his way to sabotage everything. However, watching Rhodes behaving like a jackass for 2 whole hours actually makes his demise remarkably rewarding. Deserting his men, he rushes down a corridor, hoping to escape from the zombie-riddled complex. But after being shot at by an intelligent zombie named Bub, Rhodes is left badly wounded, though the deranged soldier just about manages to drag his body towards the exit, certain that salvation lies on the other side. As Rhodes opens the door though, he's greeted by dozens of flesh-eaters, their hands outstretched to grab him. Before he has a chance to escape, the horde rip him apart, stuffing their faces with his entrails. And all Rhodes can do is cry out, "Choke on them," before succumbing to his injuries. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Number 2, a different kind of face-off, the Silence of the Lambs. Hannibal Lecter may be a sick son of a gun, but it is fascinating to watch the good doctor playing everyone like a fiddle. While he's handcuffed, incarcerated, and surrounded, there's never a moment where Anthony Hopkins' character isn't holding all of the cards. Nothing demonstrates Hannibal's tenacity better than his climactic escape in The Silence of the Lambs. While inside a makeshift cell, the cannibalistic maniac removes his handcuffs with a hidden key, before viciously attacking the guards. When the police arrive, they find one of the guards is barely alive, and after the guard is placed in an ambulance, Hannibal's corpse is found on top of an elevator. At first, it's actually a little disappointing to learn that Hannibal has kicked the bucket. He may have been a monster, but he was simply too compelling to kill off in such an abrupt manner. But it has already been established the Chianti-loving psychiatrist is just too damn smart to be done in so easily. While the ambulance makes its way to the hospital, the injured guard suddenly stands and pulls his apparent face off, revealing he is actually Hannibal. It may be a somewhat revolting way to escape, admittedly, but it is impossible to argue with those results. And number 1, the power loader, Aliens. After Ripley defeated the Xenomorph in Alien, she went into hypersleep, believing her days of kicking extraterrestrial butt were finally over. But when she awoke during the events of Aliens, she soon discovered there's an entire planet of acid-spitting beasties that she needs to destroy. What a nightmare. After rescuing Orphan Newt from the alien queen, Ripley detonates a nuclear bomb, wiping out the parasitic colony. Landing on a nearby spaceship, Ripley, Newt, Bishop, and Hicks then breathe a collective sigh of relief. Suddenly though, Bishop is ripped in two by the queen, which snuck on board Ripley's vessel. Before the pissed off queenie has a chance to finish our heroine off though, she dashes into the other room and shuts the door. With Hicks heavily injured, Bishop out of commission, and Newt too young to fight, the Queen's victory seems inevitable, right? Nope, wrong. From there, the sealed door opens as Ripley returns inside a colossal power loader. Trundling towards the towering fiend, Ripley defiantly yells, "Get away from her, you bitch!" This big reveal right here truly is a thing of beauty. Firstly, it demonstrates that the earlier scene of the power loader, which seemed unnecessary at the time, was actually setting up this showdown. And although it initially looked like Ripley was abandoning her crew, she was actually just looking for a way to save them like the badass heroine she is. More importantly, seeing Ripley clad in a robotic exoskeleton is the first time it looks like our heroes have a fighting chance against the dreaded Queen. And for this reason, it is hard to think of a single moment in sci-fi horror that's more hopeful and epic than this iconic shot.